My name is Stretch Hoff, and I'm an interviewer for the Public Library of Cincinnati. And today we have George Grassinger with us to tell us his story. Today is the 21st of October, and also our camera operator today is Dennis Daly. So welcome, George. Glad to have you here. Thanks for taking your time. We're very interested in hearing your story. So I'll just start with some questions and you can keep going. And
okay.
We like to start right at the very beginning. And like, where were you born? And tell us about your childhood, family, and so forth.
I was born in Cincinnati, Ohio, and down on Draper Street. That ran right into the stockyards, the old stockyards.
Near the river, was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, and I can remember on Spring Grove Avenue, the cows came. It ran into off of Spring Grove.
Okay.
And the cows, they were marching the cows down the street in Spring Grove Avenue.
That's why I got her name Porkopolis, I guess, wasn't it?
Yeah.
What year was that?
That was, let's see, I was born in 1920. And I was about 5, 6 years old. Yeah.
Okay, great.
My dad would take me over to watch the cows come in, the pigs also, down Spring Grove Avenue. Yeah.
Now, did you went to elementary school over there?
I went to Winton Place. We moved from Draper Street to Winton Place, and I went to elementary school at the old Winton Place School. It's still there.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I graduated from there and went to high school at Hughes.
Oh, Hughes High School.
Yeah, Hughes, we used to have to go by streetcar.
Did you really up that hill?
Yeah.
It's up by UC, right? The old Hughes High School?
Yeah,
okay.
It's on Clifton Avenue. Corner of Clifton and McMillan, I think.
I think so.
Yeah.
Okay. So you graduated from high school, what year?
39.
39, okay. All right, then what happened?
Then I went, well, this was after the war. I went a couple of years at UC. And my wife, we had 3 kids at that time, and she said, "Hey, I don't see you much." I was going to night school.
Oh boy.
And so I said, okay, I gave up. By that time I was working for Procter & Gamble.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
good company.
yeah. Very good. So
in 1939 you graduated from high school.
right.
And then what did you do right after that?
I went to work at Procter & Gamble.
Oh, okay.
1939.
What were you doing?
I was mopping floors and sweeping up. Yeah.
Okay.
And then I got picked for a pick-off job, and that was the 10-ounce, the big bars of ivory soap, and we wore wood paddles on our hands and picked it off, and the tray came under the line, and we picked off the bars. And then they went into a...
They had been cut already, or?
No, they had not been cut.
Okay.
But they went into, they were very soft. And what they came out of was a plotter. And that shaped the bar. And it went to a dry house after we carried them off. And the sheets of wood. And then we went to a dry house. And then it went to the slabbers, the people that took the huge slab of soap and they would cut it up, but they would pick up about 10 bars of this stuff, and it weighed considerably, and then they'd throw it on the slab and cut it up.
Was it all cut by wires? Is that how they did it? Or did they?
Wires, yeah.
I imagine that job is probably automated at this point, don't you think?
Yeah, I have a feeling. And it also, my job was automated,
Yeah.
yeah. And then I went into the service. I worked there for 3 years. And I went into the service. I was drafted. And as I told Dennis, I saw this sign. I went to photo school.
Okay.
And
You got drafted then about 1942, as you say?
1942.
Right. What time of year was this?
Late summer,
Okay.
early fall, yeah. In 1942. And then they sent me to Jefferson Barracks.
Well, I interrupted you. I'm sorry. You saw this sign.
That's all right.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No problem.
Go ahead. with yours.
And from there, I was put into the Air Force, and they ran the photo school. And we took every kind of picture it was, and using a speed graphic, that's the press used at that time. And I was going by a sign one day, and it says the Air Force needs you. So I signed up for the Air Force.
Okay.
And I passed all 3 tests, the bombardier, navigator, and pilot.
Uh-huh.
And I took the bombardier. I said, which of these do you get commissioned the fastest? He said, bombardier.
Bombardier.
I said, okay. So I took that, and then I went into training at bombardier school, and we had Carlsbad, New Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had to go from there to gunnery school in Las Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that wasn't a bad town.
I know.
That time. The strip wasn't there.
Uh-uh.
There was only one place on the desert, on the strip, and that was the Desert Inn.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Years ago.
But
So when you did all your training then at Carlsbad,
Carlsbad, New Mexico.
okay, and that took how long to do that?
4 months
Okay.
for the bombardier school.
Mhm.
Yeah. I graduated in January of 43.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, no, 44. No,
43.
43.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we went to Columbia, South Carolina. I was transferred to Columbia, and I flew in the B-25s as a cannoneer.
Which is what?
You loaded the 75 millimeter cannon.
Mm-hmm.
The B-25s had a cannon they used in the Pacific.
Mm-hmm.
And it was loaded, and you had to watch out for the recoil because the shell came back, you know. And
Inside the airplane?
I went in, yeah, inside the airplane.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it was in the nose,
Uh-huh.
and the cannon was back.
Okay.
So I went to the colonel, and I said, hey, I didn't spend 4 months of training as a bombardier to load this cannon. And he sent me to Greenville, South Carolina.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Well, that was
And-
good.
yeah. And then I did bombardiering at that point.
Tell me what a bombardier does. What's the responsibility?
Okay, Norden site.
So they had a new site then
Yeah,
at that
the
time,
Norden bomb site.
right?
Yeah. And you load the altitude and airspeed into the bomb site.
Mm-hmm.
And the crosshair is permanent. but it looks like when you have drift, it looks like that's the vertical line, and then you would crank the one knob and bring it back to the target, and the pilot had an pilot indicator, and he would grab the plane, just go to the direction of the indicator.
Based on what you're doing?
Yeah,
Okay.
What I was doing.
Okay.
And then the crosshairs was ground speed, and you had to establish the wind drift and that so forth before. And so we went to navigation school, at Bombardier Navigator I
So
was
did you have to be both?
Yeah.
Okay.
But the Norden bomb sight was the most fantastic piece of equipment I've ever seen.
Yeah.
It was. There was no doubt about that.
Well, it always kind of amazed me because you're looking down on this. Where's the target when you're looking down? Is it right there? It's got to be up here someplace. So
Yeah, it's got, you had a mirror that picked up the target,
Okay.
and then you killed the ground speed by the horizontal sight. And that, when the pilot had crabbed the plane to drift, and the sight was permanently right on the target. Yeah. And the bombs released automatically.
Oh, they did?
Oh, yes.
Once you locked in on that target?
Once you locked in the target.
Okay. So once you were, when you were finding the target, did the pilot have no control? You said he crabbed?
It crabbed the plane.
But then you were
killed drift.
You were in charge of
Yeah,
the
I was
flight
in
at that
charge
point.
of the airplane.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right. Well, that's
because the gunners got a little noisy one day, and I said they were using the mic system,
yeah.
and I said to them, I said, "Hey, shut up! I'm in charge."
Yeah, this is my huddle, huh?
Yeah, that's it.
Well, that's really interesting.
Yeah,
So your navigation school helped you?
helped me on the
Yeah.
wind drift and
Yeah.
ground speed, and
That's
we
amazing.
did pilot teach at first, and then we did dead reckoning.
Okay.
And then that's when you sit in the back of an airplane and you don't see the ground. So you can't do pilotage. That's when you identify a red barn or something, or a city, or a town. But you can't do that dead reckoning. And you took a wind reading, how much drift, and then 45 degrees, and then 45 back, or 90 back, and then 45 back on line, straight line. You drew the straight line from town to town.
Okay.
Yeah, and that was in Greenville, South Carolina. That we used that.
Now, when you locked onto that target,
Yeah.
then automatically right away it would release the bombs, and was that the way it worked?
No, when I locked onto the target, it had to be, maybe a mile away.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And I could tell, looking in the bomb sight, how much drift we had or so forth. And I would tell the pilot, I'd say, turn her left just a hair.
Real
And he would-
technical instruction.
Yeah. And he would do it.
Uh-huh.
And the pilots were good. The pilot made the bombardier.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Vice versa, too.
Mhm.
So then when did it finally just lock on and then it was released automatically?
Yeah,
Is that
you release automatically.
So as soon as you got it on target, did you just like flip some kind of button and wait for it to go? Is that?
You had to open bomb bay.
Yeah, that helps.
That was the tricky part.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, you had to open the bomb bay.
That was your responsibility.
That was my responsibility.
Yeah.
And sometimes a bombardier would not open the bomb bays, and
Oh,
the
geez.
plane was lost. Yeah,
I'll bet.
yeah,
Oh, my goodness.
because it's armed, automatically armed when it comes down, when it's released.
Wow. Now,
So-
was that site specific enough that you could actually target a building? Or was
Oh
it
yeah,
like an
a
area?
bridge. Some of the bridges we hit in the Brenner Pass, and at the town I established a DFC, Distinguished Flying Cross, early, and that's another story too.
Okay, we'll
I'll
tell
tell you.
that. We'll
Yeah.
talk about that when you want to.
But what was your question?
Well, how specific could the bomb say, well, you could get you was talking about maybe you could get a single bridge. It wasn't just kind of
Oh yeah,
an area.
and the bridges were only 30, 40 feet wide.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you tried to drop a few bombs before the bridge, and then the trail, what they call the trail, was the bombs falling. See, they didn't release, there was a couple of seconds before the first bomb would go, then the second bomb, then the third, and we carried 8 500-pounders.
Did they always release all at one?
No, you didn't release them all at one time.
Well, I mean, once the bomb bay was open, I realized they released kind of in a sequence. But
Yeah.
did you do all 8 then?
No.
Or could you specify 4? Or
No, you could specify 2 or 3 seconds between the bombs.
okay,
Yeah.
but all 8 were going to go.
All 8 were going
Okay.
to go. And then
All right.
the first one would go release, then the second one opposite. The bomb bay had 2 sides. We carried 8 500-pounders, and there was 4 on each side.
Okay. So after your training, then, was that in Columbia where you received that training?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Columbia, South Carolina,
So
or
you-
Greenville.
Greenville, okay.
I was sent to Columbia, then I was transferred to Greenville after I raised hell with the
'Cause you-
commanding officer and said, "Hey, I didn't spend 4 months
You
to
didn't wanna
be a
load the cannon.
bombardier." Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So then after your Greenville, what happened after that?
Oh, they took my pilot. He had previously flown a plane and was in Air Transport Command. And they took my pilot for that, so I had to go through the whole smear again with a new pilot.
Well, you trained with the pilot you were going to fly with?
Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay.
And
so
then they took him for Air Transport Command.
Okay. So what was the team made up of then? You had the pilot, you had yourself, the gunner.
Pilot, the co-pilot, and the 3 officers were pilot, co-pilot, and bombardier. And the 3 gunners
Okay.
was tail gunner, waist gunner, and top turret gunner.
So you were put together as a team here in the United States?
Yeah, right,
And then you were, okay.
yeah.
I didn't think.
The top turret gunner was flight engineer, and the gunners, waist gunner, was the radio man, and the tail gunner, he was just the tail gunner.
You'd be
Yeah.
I'm amazed when I see some of those airplanes, how small
Oh,
those
yeah.
gunner
Yeah,
pods or whatever they're called. Oh my goodness. I don't know how you do that.
yeah, to get from the nose of the plane, you had to come back about that square a compartment slid. You went uphill to get it to it, and then you went downhill to get underneath the pilot. That was, and then the bomb bay, you crawled over the top of the bomb bay. You had a porthole to look at, to see if all the bombs were released. Yeah.
Okay, so now you had to go through how much more training? How long did it take after you got a different pilot?
Well, about 4 months.
Okay.
Yeah, I had trained 3 to 4 months. Yeah.
Okay, then what happened? So you're all trained, you've got
Then-
your squad together, your
Yeah,
team together?
we were sent to Florida, and then from Florida, we went over the Caribbean Sea, and then we developed oil pressure, and it was haywire, so we landed at a town in the Caribbean, and this first lieutenant came out to meet us, and we outranked him. Well, we didn't. He was first lieutenant. I was just a second lieutenant at the time, and we didn't outrank him. But he said they had a brigade here, and that was over 1,000 men, and they kept supplying the liquor and the food to us. And he said, now I've only got about 50 men. But the ship pulls in, and
There they are.
he said, do you want to buy a case of whiskey? And I said, sure. Yeah. We'll take it over and sell it, but we drank it all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would suspect so.
Yeah.
So they fixed your oil pressure problem.
Yeah, they did. And they sent a plane up from, the city at the end of the Caribbean Sea. I can't think of the name of it. It's one of the cruise line ships now they stop at.
Yeah.
But they sent a plane up and a mechanic, and they fixed it.
Okay.
Yeah. And then we got to Natal, South America.
Natal?
Natal.
What, is that a country?
No,
Is it
a city.
Pardon me?
Not much of a city either.
Okay.
Natal, Natal.
Okay.
Yeah. And we had to wait 5 days. We were sent to fly to Ascension Island,
Okay.
which is off the African coast. And
That was your destination?
the destination.
Base? Okay.
Well, no. From there on, we went up across the Sahara Desert to Tunis.
Okay.
And then, but we had to wait 5 days because of the headwinds. We couldn't make it with the gasoline. And we had a 5,000 pound gallon tank in the Bombay.
Wow. And that's amazing.
Yeah.
So you were, so planes, teams of, are formed at different times based on their training, and then you fly over and you join what? You
Well,
join
Tunis-
a larger group there in Tunis?
At Tunis, we were sent to Corsica.
Okay.
Yeah, they needed pilots and bombardiers and navigators. And we ended up in Corsica, and we were handed a tent and said, you're in Tent City.
Here's your
Yeah.
hotel.
So none of us knew how to put up a perimeter type tent.
They didn't
tent.
teach you that? Of all that?
No, they didn't teach you. So I put up one time, and that was years back, and I just happen to remember how it went. and we got it up.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're in Corsica.
Mhm.
Is that, when is this now? What period of time are we talking
That's
about? 1943?
north
40.
of Tripoli,
No, I know where it is, but what
Yeah.
year was this? What?
1944.
Okay,
Yeah. Early 1944.
okay.
Yeah.
Now, did you fly all your missions from there?
Yeah. Well, we moved in May. Why we moved, I'll never understand that. But we moved in May of 45, and the war ended in June, into Italy.
So, where, I know you told us that you were on 51 missions.
Yeah.
And as we said a little earlier, just like you go through it, I always was under the impression after 25 missions that you were finished.
No.
And this didn't happen.
They
to
kept
you.
advancing the amount of totals missions. There was, actually it was 70 by the time I was sent home.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, you said, of course, the war was winding down there at the end.
Yeah.
So did they extend you because, I don't know, this is a funny way to say it, I guess, but was it safer then, or would they have all the
Well, they weren't
anti-aircraft
getting any more crews. They
Okay.
were using the ones that we had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were you losing at any great rate? Were you losing crews, or?
No, it wasn't not that great. You had what they called a milk run, and that was the flak was distant and wasn't accurate and
Yeah.
so forth.
Okay.
And
So
we,
tell us where'd your missions take you? Where were you bombing?
okay, southern France, Austria, Yugoslavia.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you do anything with Italy? Did you bomb it?
Oh yeah,
Okay,
bomb.
a
We
lot of-
the major part of the German line was the Po Valley.
You're right.
Yeah,
Okay.
and the Po Valley was the Po River, of course. But the German line was there, and then they moved up to the Brenner Pass, and that was a hotbed.
Mhm.
That was really tough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where was that, Brenner? Was that northern Italy?
But that was connected Austria to Italy.
Okay.
Yeah, the Brenner Pass.
Did you do any bombing on Sicily?
No,
Okay.
no, that was taken before I got overseas.
That's when Patton and his
Yeah.
group came through there. Okay.
Patton was, yeah.
Tell us a typical mission in terms of, preparation, time it took. Of course, that depends on where you're going, I know, but
Yeah.
just give us a day in the life of a bombardier. What happens?
Oh, okay. Well, normally why they got you up early, I'll never know. Because most of the missions didn't take off till 9, 10 o'clock. But we had to get up at like 5:45 or something ridiculous time to get breakfast and go briefing, and they tell you the number of gun positions and the target, and if there were any fighter planes in the area. By that time, the fighter planes were nil.
Pretty much.
Yeah,
Out of
they
yeah.
were out of gas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So then we carried, in the lead plane, we carried a navigator, true navigator.
Okay.
So, and I flew lead most of the time, yeah. But let's see, when you flew to avoid German gun positions, and then you were, for example, say it was northern Italy, and then you would have to sidestep the gun positions to get to the target. It was bridges, highways. Troop support work was the worst.
Troop support work.
Yeah, that's when you dropped anti-personnel bombs, and you didn't know which of the lines. The German line and the American line was the same going across Italy.
Were these like the supply lines? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it's a German line.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, they're protecting, the Germans were protecting the northern part of Italy. And actually it was on the other side of Rome at one time.
You mean on the
And they kept moving back.
Okay.
We kept pushing them back.
Uh-huh.
And then they would say a line, but you didn't know where the American troops were and where the German troops were, and we wanted to drop the anti-personnel bombs onto the the German troops.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was tough.
So that was tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was.
Now, does a mission last, depends on where you're going, obviously, but it's all daylight bombing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so is it a 6-hour mission or?
Well, no, actually, some were only 2 hours if we went right over to Italy. 2.5 hours, 3 hours. Some of the southern Austria, southern France, those were 7 and 8 hours. Mm-hmm.
And how many?
4 hours to get there and 4 hours to get home.
Yeah. Drop your 8 bombs in a couple of minutes and go home. Huh?
Yeah, that's right.
And how many airplanes were in the formations going over there?
Oh, 18.
Okay.
Yeah. They flew what they called a box of 6, and there was 3 boxes. And if you were bombing a bridge or a concrete bridge, you used 4 1,000-pounders, 8 500-pounders. Only the Bombay would only accommodate. The bomb was 5-6 feet long, and that round of 1,000 pounds.
Wow.
So, but they used that mostly on concrete.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay. Were you escorted by fighters, or did you rely on your own gun?
Yes, we were.
Okay.
We were escorted by fighters. Actually, the colored fighters, the squadron you hear about all the time, they were most of the time with us.
But they had a great record, didn't they?
Oh, they did.
Yeah, they were great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I kid them a lot, you know. We'd get their call sign and talk to them. Yeah.
Do you recall, were they used primarily in that part of the theater where you were?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to maybe up in the other areas.
Yeah.
Okay. So you want to tell your distinguished flying cross story now? Is it appropriate now or when we're
Right.
talking about flying?
We had sent 18 planes to bomb a bridge in the Brenner Pass. And the lead squad of 6, we were flying the right squad of 6, and the left squad, the pilot of the said, we're going to the alternate target. He called the pilot of the I-6 and his lead 6. They established whether the target. I said to the pilot, I said, hey, I got the target exactly. And he said, well, we'll go to it. So that was a violation of anything, you know. Once the pilot called, the lead pilot called off the flight and went to the alternate target. Well, I said, it's only about half the bomb run now, and the bomb's away in 4 or 5 minutes. So we did. And we're back at, we landed back and in Corsica, and the pilot said, we're wanted into the colonel's office.
Right away.
Yeah, right away. And we were drinking coffee and eating some cookies. And he said, I'm going to court-martial both of you.
Were you the only plane that went to the...
Yeah, no, I was the lead
Of the
box
6.
of the 6.
So all 6 of you went, the
Yeah.
other 6 went somewhere else?
Yeah.
Okay.
See, we only kept one bomb site in the lead plane.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Because other bombardiers, if you had 6 planes, and each one had a bomb site, they would be dropping them halfway there and halfway over, you know. So I was the only bombardier in the nose of the plane. Yeah, of the 6 planes. And we hit the target. We bank it so we could watch the bombs. And we hit the target, and the colonel says, you can't knock a bridge down with 6 planes. I said, Colonel, I don't want to argue with you, but 6, he says, I've sent 3 fighter planes up to take pictures, and they should be back very shortly. So he finally, he got the pictures, and he says, the damn bridge is down.
Good work,
says,
no court-martial, huh?
Yeah. And he says, forget the court-martial. Yeah. You did prove that 6 planes could knock a bridge down. Yeah.
Wow.
So I said, that SOB wanted the court-martial, and you and I, to the pilot, I said to the pilot, I said, all of a sudden, he got clear on that.
Yeah. The result was great, huh? Well, if this box you're in has 6 airplanes in it,
Yeah.
when you actually go into a target, do you form a single file then? Is that how you do it?
No, you flew, the lead 6 was up here, and the other 6 were
Behind you?
behind. Not behind because of the wake of the props, but over to the right and left.
So for something as small as it must have looked like a bridge at the bottom, you were the only person with the bomb site, and the people on the other sides of you...
No, I
How
was
does
the
that
only,
work?
of the 6 planes, I was the only person with a bomb site.
Right, that's what I meant.
Yeah. And once they saw the bomb fly, drop from the airplane, they would toggle there,
They would drop theirs.
drop theirs.
So theirs was more of a manual.
Yeah,
Okay.
right. Why they had to go through all that training, course,
when they,
but we lost a few
yeah,
crews that way, yeah.
okay.
But,
And for that, then you got the Distinguished Flying Cross because
yeah,
even
Because
though
I-
you disobeyed,
I
you,
disobeyed. I said, hey, I want it for this bridge that we knocked down. Yeah,
well, congratulations.
yeah.
Now, did just you get it, or did your whole crew get it, or all six? You know?
Yeah, we all got it.
All
Yeah,
got it, okay.
yeah,
Good.
yeah,
But you were the guy that told them to go ahead.
yeah. I told the pilot, I said, keep right on. We'll argue with the other 12 planes
Okay,
when they get back.
very good. Where are we time-wise now? Are we into 1945 at this point?
1945, the biggest rumor I've heard yet was we'll be home for Christmas. That was always the rumor in the Army.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You made it that year, though, right?
right.
So when you're, I know that like Italy surrendered just before
Right.
the
Then we were
the
sent to
Germans in
Corsica.
Europe.
Yeah,
So you were sent back to Corsica, and that's where the war was over at that point?
yeah,
Okay.
right. And then we waited, the mess sergeant, mess lieutenant, he needed some help. And I went to the colonel and I said, hey, he was organizing a ground school to keep the troops out of trouble and so forth. So I said to the colonel, I said, hey, the mess lieutenant, he needs help to go out and find fresh vegetables and fruit and so forth. And we found an ice cream plant.
Ice cream plant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This was after the war, of course. But, and we would. He could speak Italian like a native. So we were over in Italy then.
So then from Corsica, did you come home then?
Yeah, and no, Italy, I was released to fly down to Naples
Okay.
and sent home. And then from Naples, we reversed the route back to Ascension Island, to South America, then up to Belém, and then the Caribbean, and we landed at Florida. And this woman, Red Cross woman, came out and she said, I'll bet you're looking for a glass of cold milk. I said, I'd rather have a cold beer.
I bet I'm not looking for a glass of cold
Yeah.
milk.
All the whiskey that we bought, and we bought 2 cases from this first lieutenant back in St. Lucian Island. That's where we landed with the oil problem. And we drank it all. Yeah,
No.
yeah. It
No.
was,
So how old were you, George, at this time?
24.
24 years old.
Yeah, 23 and 24. Yeah. I was one of the oldest.
Is that right?
Yeah, and they were sending pilots over with 18-year-olds and 19-year-olds.
Was your crew together the whole time?
No.
Did you lose some?
I flew, was taken and put on another plane with an experienced pilot, and I flew Togolier. That's what we called the guy that on the wing, Togolier, for about 4 missions. And then I was made lead bomber. Yeah.
So most of the
Bombardier.
missions, then you were the lead
Yeah,
bombardier.
yeah. Of the 51, only 47 of them were.
Did you ever
lead.
miss your target?
Oh yes, I flew radar, and we had sent up to this city, and we were going to bomb the outskirts of the town with radar. And one of the stations was in Norway, and one was in Russia. And we had to sit up in the nose of the plane. It was dark, and I looked at the scale. It was a 100-mile scale, and then it dropped to 10 miles, and then it dropped to 1 mile. Well, I interpreted the 10 mile as 1 mile. And we were a mile into the town, and I dropped right down the main street. The bombs released, and we were. That's the first time I ever cried.
I bet.
Yeah.
Yeah. So radar was used at night, and then you're.
No, daytime. It was daytime.
Oh, I thought you said, okay.
Yeah. I flew about 10 missions with radar, and I went to the colonel and I said, hey, I'm ready to go back on Norden. So
Yeah.
I went back to that.
Okay, so now you're 23, 24 years old, and you're back in the United States.
Yeah.
Now what happens?
Well, I got married in bombardier school.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. My wife, I was married 62 years, and she called me, and I said, well, what are your plans? She says, I'm coming out to see you, and then we're going to get married. I said, well, that's crazy. Bombardiers are very vulnerable, you know. And I don't want we had any children.
Yeah.
When she got pregnant after we were married, yeah. And so the priest married us in the Catholic Church one Saturday night, and my mother and dad were supposed to come out, but they couldn't make it. My mother got sick, but her mother and dad arrived at the town, Carlsbad, New Mexico. And they were witnesses. So, but he set up a reception for us and everything.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
So you're back in town then, and you've
Right.
reunited with your family now.
Yeah.
Back to Proctor, is that what you did?
Mm-hmm. And that was before I was sent overseas.
But you got married, right?
Yeah, no, I got married in Carlsbad, New Mexico.
Right.
And she called me about 3 months later, and not called, we wrote in a letter. There wasn't, just V-mail, and letters took about a month to get there. And she said, I'm pregnant. So I said, oh, great. When are you due? Yeah. She had the baby in March, and I was still flying. And the war ended in June. Yeah. So
Okay,
he was
so
about 4 months old when I saw him, 5 months. Yeah.
I meant to ask you, I'm backtracking a little bit, but was your plane ever hit by...
Oh yeah, we counted 60 holes one day in the plane.
Oh,
Yeah,
geez.
and they just patched them up and
Way you go.
flew again. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, now continue with your story when you came back to the United States and you're reunited with your family.
the colonel wanted me to stay in.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, no way, no way. I said, I got wife and child now, so no way I was going to stay in. But bombardiers are extinct now, you know. Radar
does the whole thing.
Does the whole thing, yeah.
Was your job at P&G extinct too?
No, I was promoted to, when I got home, I was what they call a job study engineer. And that's management. And then I was made a foreman. And then I was made a operations manager. And I had about 9, 10 foremen reporting to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And what were you making? Were you still, that's still soap, or what was happening at Procter?
No, I moved over to the toilet goods plant in 1947. They built a brand new plant,
Mm-hmm.
and I moved over to that. And it's torn down now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was on the north, of Vine Street and Railroad Avenue in that corner plot, right next to the St. Bernard plant.
Okay. So do you ever see any of your old flying buddies? Do you have a reunion or something you go to, or what?
I got the magazine there of the reunion. I'm standing in Dayton one time and looking at a B-25 at the museum.
It was a terrific
Air Force.
museum, isn't
Yeah.
it? Yeah.
And the fellow said, "Were you on one?" And I said, "Yes."
Mm-hmm.
And he said, "Gee, we'd like you to join the reunion
Mm-hmm.
of all the Air Force, of just the B-25s."
Yeah.
Yeah. So I said, and we went to a different city every year. Yeah. But that was, God, I had the kids. I had 4 kids. And they were in high school and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them were working, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. College.
Were you on Corsica when the war ended?
Yes.
And
No, in Italy.
You were in Italy. Lots of celebration at the time? Did you get the word pretty quickly?
Yes. No, when the war ended in Japan, I was assigned to an A-20 group in Sparta, South Carolina or something, A-20s. And they carried a crew of 3, pilot, bombardier acted as co-pilot, and a gunner. And that was an attack plane, A-20.
Okay.
Yeah. But the war ended in Japan, and that was,
That was all.
yeah, that was it.
Mm-hmm.
I was down there in Japan, Sparta at the time, and we had a ball that night.
Bet.
Yeah.
Were you at all worried about, or not worried, but were you part of what might have been an attack on Japan at the time?
Yeah.
You guys were going to transfer?
A-20 was, that's why it's
That
called A-20.
Attack?
Yeah,
Okay.
attack.
All right.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
And you carried a minimum amount of bombs, and you just went after submarines and shipping and so forth.
Okay. Well, George, it's been very interesting.
Okay.
Anything to add in the last few minutes here? I think you told
No,
a very
I
complete
enjoyed it, yeah, going over.
Well, it's interesting. the number of people that basically enjoyed their service, I think. I mean, they all had,
Oh,
everybody's had very dangerous situations,
Yeah.
obviously, but I think the friends that were made and the places you were and so forth,
mhm.
it's good to hear that. We thank you for your service.
Okay,
I enjoyed talking with you very much.
thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.